Hello and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name's Cole and this is Gavin. Gavin, say hello to the people.
What's up, people? It's Gavin here, founder of Seps.io.
And today we have Mike and Rum from Supacolor. Maybe, Mike, can you start and just tell us a little bit about your history and how you became involved in the industry?
I've been in the industry since early 90s, and I started off dropping out of university and becoming an embroidery digitizer when not many people were embroidery digitizers. From then, I set up a company called Embroidery Works. We put in screen printing, we put in heat transfers. Pretty much my whole career has been running a decorating business. Right. Supacolor, when we set that up in 2016, was a side hustle. We had a need in New Zealand. New Zealand's a short run market. 20s, 30s, 10s, 5s, 1s is really, really common out there. And we were printing screen printed transfers for 20 units with 5 colors in it. It would take the guy all day. But when we started up Supacolor, me and my business partner in New Zealand, Bill, he worked out how to combine a couple of technologies to make a full color heat transfer. And then we gave it a name and we started selling it to other people, and it became bigger than his business and it became much bigger than my business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That Supacolor, you guys seem to be everywhere in the industry right now. Rum, what was your background in the industry?
I haven't taken a straight line to anything in life. So I came out of college and I was in the financial services industry for quite a bit of time. My first job was with a small brokerage firm and then moved over to Merrill Lynch. And then from there, I got into real estate and investment properties. And in 2015, I decided I needed to get back to being a creative person. And it was something that I really missed being in the professional game. And so a couple of my friends were in the heat transfer business, and they asked me to join them. And the next thing is I met Mike and their Supacolor. But basically, I have another company. It's called Deco Press. It's a decorating business. And the foundations of Deco Press were, spot color heat transfers and patches and emblems. And it also includes some embroidery in there. So, when we talk about Supacolor, we say for decorators by decorators. What we mean by that is that we created a line of heat transfers that, were made to solve problems that we had in our own business, made for us to be able to solve our customers' needs. And from there, we wanted to take it to the market and share it with all of our colleagues, all of our peers.
It seems like DTF is very quickly, maybe not surpassing DTG, but it's a serious challenger to it. What do you think changed in the technology recently that made it such a viable option for so many people?
One of the challenges, I suppose, with DTG and some of the other forms of branding is a lot of them had compromises. If you look at EcoCell vinyl printers, you're weeding, and people come in with floating text and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, man, how am I going to weed that? And then what you do is you resort to putting a garment-coloured outline fill around the outside of it. And it looks okay sometimes if you get the colour right, but 9 times out of 10 it doesn't look so great. DTG's kind of great, but you've got pre-treating, you've got cotton garments, you've got hoodies, you've got a dude who has to really know what's going on. You don't really have the flexibility. And in most decorating shops, people walk in, they don't say, I want some cotton T-shirts. They say, I got a golf tournament on Friday. I want some hats. I want some polo shirts. I want some shorts. Maybe they want some golf gloves. The type of products that we're getting asked to decorate now are a lot wider because people want their gifts a little bit more quality, a little bit different, all that sort of thing. So we're not just decorating T-shirts anymore. And transfers in general gives you the flexibility to decorate anything. If it'll stick,
right,
it's good to go. And I think that flexibility is why the initially Supacolor, and then probably after that, the DTF revolution came around. Because what it did is it gave somebody the flexibility to decorate a whole lot of other shit that they just couldn't decorate before.
With this new kind of emergence of it, what has it been like to manage the demand for orders? I went to one of your facilities just to do a will call pickup. You guys are cranking, and that was just one of your buildings out of, I'm not sure how many you're up to. Like, how have you been managing that workflow and all of that new staff and keeping the quality standards to your actual expectations?
Is it a question for you or is it a question for me?
No. Oh my
It's,
gosh.
it's been
You just gave me anxiety with the question. I feel like, should I run downstairs and check on everything? No.
Well, I mean, your quality standard is good, and you have a great product, but making that product potentially tens of thousands, even 100,000s of sheets, in a day or a week or whatever, scaling that must be the biggest challenge of making Supacolor so successful so quickly.
getting something out of the way early. DTF is direct to film, and it's also digital, 100% digital.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it's made is it comes out of a inkjet printer, and it gets printed, and then it gets powdered. Then you got your DTF. That's not quite us. We're a screen printed DTF product, and so we have some digital machines which are called HP Indigos. They're a digital offset press. We use them to put the color on the sheet, and then we take that sheet and we screen print it. And one of the things that we do is we put more layers into our screen printed product, which is why the whites are so good, and that's why the wash fastness is so good. We call it Supacolor because if you've got a great white, the color, and especially the translucent colors that we get out of our digital offset presses, really just pings off the shirt. It's also a lot easier for us to manage color, be consistent with the color, all that sort of carry on. Our bottleneck, like you and everybody else, if I asked you what your bottleneck in your shop is it's screen printing, right?
Right.
You got to make screens. You got to get the screen to the press. The digital machine's really quick. Like it will print something like 200 sheets a minute. The screen printing press is not that quick.
Wow.
It's quick, but it's not that quick. So very early on in the piece, we had to learn how to scale the screen printing business, which meant more machines, more people, lots of process. We couldn't go and find the amount of screen printing people that we needed, so we had to really get good at training. We had to get really good at people. We had to really get really good at selecting people. And to tell it, like, from our side of the coin, right, like your bottleneck today might be your machines or your screen printing or, but ultimately at some point it always ends up back at your people. And the capability in your people and your ability to lead them, inspire them, motivate them, and sort of like connect them to the customer journey so that they know what the right activities are at the right time. And it doesn't really matter how you make your product. That's, for us, we learned early on in the piece that was totally key. And we've been chasing that ever since, and every day is different. And with people, every day is a learning day. We get out of bed every morning trying to be better at that piece.
I would say that scaling is probably the hardest thing that I personally have ever done in my life. Been through several challenges in business, but scaling this business was probably one of the greatest challenges and achievements ever. I think we have north of 300 employees worldwide, 5 facilities, 24 print lines, 8 digital presses. Just getting to that point is remarkable just looking back, but also knowing that there's so much more for us to do because we feel like we're barely scratching the surface here.
So you were talking about kind of the rise of Supacolor being launched by some videos that you guys worked with Stan on. Jump back into that because it sounds like Supacolor hasn't truly taken off until maybe the last 2-3 years.
So our first year in America was in 2019, and we came up. We were building a traditional business. We were cruising around, and we were cold calling. We'd just go and knock on doors. It was kind of hard work. We grew, but we didn't really grow. Pandemic rolled along. Our old friend Stan made some videos for us, and it just went bang. And it was like somebody just put a rocket under the company. We were doubling every 2 months.
Wow.
Our machines are a 40-foot container and a 20-foot container big. And we air freighted one in from Europe. And then we got that installed. We rang them up and we said, have you got a machine lying around? And they said, yeah.
What was that freight charge?
It was something like $50K. And then we had to remodel the building that we had whilst the plant was going so that we could fit in a fourth machine.
And build a bigger screen room.
And so we've got videos of sort of like with plastic sheet all over the place and jackhammers going and Supacolor's being printed not very far away. And screen printing doesn't like dust, as you guys know. And then it sort of settled down, but it didn't really. It just kept on growing. we learned so many lessons. We learned so many lessons about how we were going to structure the company, and we had to learn them fast. And it was changing every other day. We've got a really good IT backbone of the company in terms of how we manage and look at the jobs that come in and all that sort of thing. And we really enhanced that, and we hired a whole lot of people in New Zealand to do separating. And a little bit like you, Gavin, the people who were doing the separating became our bottleneck.
Yep.
And so in New Zealand, we couldn't necessarily come to the USA because our country was pretty much locked down. And so how we sort of supported them is we hired a whole lot of people, and they used to work the USA shift. And they were doing all of the front end work, all of the artwork processing, because one of the best guys in our organization around the artwork processing, he lives in New Zealand. And so we built crews out. We run 2 shifts there at the moment, and we run another shift in the UK. We've probably got 40 or 50 people in that front end just looking at artwork. We learned a lot about our customers as well, what they wanted, how they resonated with the brand. We had to turn the videos off for a little while. I remember having conversations. It's like, don't put out any more videos. Not right now, right? Like, we just can't handle it anymore. So no more. Sitting in New Zealand, I was watching people making fan videos, and there was one guy, I remember, he was doing a product durability test, and he turned the t-shirt upside down on the road, and he put a 20-gallon jug on the t-shirt, and then he dragged it for, 10 meters. And then he pulls the shirt out and holds it up, and the print was perfect. And in those moments of him dragging it down the road with that jug on it, I was just panicking. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the end of Supacolor, right? Because he's going to pull it up, and it's just going to be braided off because it's like hitting it with sandpaper. It was a real blessing for us, because when you grow like that, you find out who the people are standing around you. Lots of pressure. A Supacolor factory today, we run 2 shifts in all of them. One of them we're running 3 shifts at the moment. We make 220 odd screens a shift because we're screen printing. We haven't dived into DTF in terms of making it digitally, because we're still working on whether or not we like that quality and how that sort of goes together. We also understand that people really want us to make one transfer, and that's hard when you're screen printing. Yeah, recently we've stopped calling our transfer a hybrid, and we're calling it a screen printed DTF, which is what it is, because it's direct to film. And we've always said that DTF is our cousin. You use it in exactly the same way. Screen print shops are now sort of like, understanding how much value is in the heat press, because what that heat press does is it gives them the flexibility to brand so much stuff that if they screen printed it, it would be uneconomic. And what it does, for me, the biggest thing about transfers is if you're running automatic carousels and you're running multicolored logos on them and that sort of thing, it allows you to make more money because you're not putting the shit on your machine. If you can print 1 color, 2 color, 3 color, 4 colors all day, then you'll make more money out of your screen printing plant.
Yep.
And your transfer, you can treat it as a sacrifice. You can learn how to margin it up and make money out of it and all that sort of carry on. Nearly all of the screen printers that I know who use Supacolor, when they put Supacolor in, their screen print shop grew because they started saying yes to their customers more.
Yeah.
With Supacolor, you just say, bring it on. Be ready on Tuesday.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, because when I first started printing, most screen printed I know, they did not like transfers. They really didn't like transfers. I kind of stay away from transfer for a long time because logistic, I had to order the stuff. Quality didn't work. You never know what you was going to get, right? How were you guys receiving the screen printing community? Like, was it hard for you guys to get screen printers to just accept Supacolor? And what are you guys hearing now from screen printers?
In New Zealand and Australia, when we started up, we only sold it to screen printers and people who are in decoration businesses. We weren't selling it to everybody, and we didn't have a marketing plan. And man, in the early days, we didn't even have a website. And we also were struggling with our capacity, so we'd pick the people that we were dealing with, because that was how we controlled making sure we delivered all the time.
It was a dealer model.
It was a dealer model. It was a total dealer model. And we made them have air-operated presses and all of that sort of thing, and we designed our product around sort of like that. Do you know, the transfer that we make today is a transfer that's been around for probably a long time in its screen printed sense. We use really high quality inks, the water base. We use really high quality adhesives. The transfer is catalyzed. It's fully cured before it goes onto the shirt. And so if you make a mistake, you can just keep pressing it. You can leave it pressed for 10 minutes and the color won't change because it's already cured. Most of the transfers in America and most of the transfer manufacturers in America, they were trying to compete with screen printing. And so they make their transfers in a totally different way. It's plastisol on paper with a powder. Often it's one pass plastisol with powder on paper, right? That's what the majority of this market looked like. And there wasn't many options in that full color option as well. That wasn't plastisol. And I mean, plastisol's great. It stays open on the screen. You can print it all day. Like it's easy on your staff, all that sort of carry on. But for a transfer, it doesn't give you the best result. We stuck to our guns and we only make, we haven't got product confusion. We've only got one type of transfer. We've got different flavors of it that work on different garments like blockers and sub-blockers. And we've got a promotional transfer, which is probably one of our best transfers because it'll stick to anything. It hasn't got much stretch, but it'll stick to anything. For us, it was never about sort of like diversifying the product and selling more things to the customers that we had. There was an evolution of a product to keep on carrying on making it better. And that's where a lot of our R&D focus has gone on up until this point. And of course, we were scaling scaling something that's sort of like, has got a diverse product range is difficult as well.
But to answer your question about how screen printers receive us now, I would say 60% of our business comes from screen print shops as it is. Mm-hmm. And I think what's changed is the mentality around transfers. And, are you a screen printer or are you a businessman or a business person? Which one are you? Ultimately, the decision that you have to make is what's right for the customer, what's best for your customer so that they're happy and you can produce it in the time that they want it and get the results that they're looking for. And ultimately, if that's screen printing, you should go that route. But if it's over a certain number of colors, 4 or 5 colors, it's going on a bag, it's going on a soft shell jacket, it's going on a cap, it's going, in a tricky location, it's low count. All of those things are naturally going to point. And what ends up happening is that it's like a gateway drug. They start trying it, they like it, they go from a manual press to a pneumatic press. Then they get their cap press, then they get a label press, then they get a carousel press. Mm-hmm. And then they start thinking about how they could do it faster and better because they start to make more money off of it. And it relieves pressure on all other parts of the business. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of like the evolution. And what it's led to now is we're in the golden era of heat transfers. And the party was kind of kicked off by, us jumping into the game here in the US. When we started, like Mike said, we were only offering the product to professional print shops. We didn't offer it to ASI brokers. We didn't offer it to the retail customer off the street because, again, it was a product for decorators by decorators. But, that ultimately changed because the demand for the product was so high because there really wasn't anything that had the speed to market, the quality, the service behind it. Like we pretty much, if there's a problem with your order or with your transfers and you ring us up or email us and you contact our support team, we're pretty much going to replace it without asking any questions.
We don't fight it.
It's like there's a totally different mentality around it because we know that our customers have customers on the other side. At the end of the day, and what transfers offer in a larger sense is stability. Things like we were talking about DTG earlier, it's not entirely the most stable process out there. And it could be a bit whimsical in a sense where like your lines can get clogged up and things like that can happen. And that naturally is happening with DTF printers that shops are putting in their shops now because that's just the nature of the beast. But in a larger sense, transfers do offer a lot of stability and it's become like a go-to process for shops to have.
I'd love to know if you have any stories of your customers Because you always see like the YouTube pitch of like how I made $3,000 this week and it took me 2.5 hours, whatever. Have you guys been seeing clients that are doing that approach of like, I'm just going to start this hustle. I'm going to use nothing but Supacolor. And then you've seen some of them actually, thrive.
I've got a
There's a lot of those stories.
I got a customer in Australia that you relate to. He spent a lot of money on an automatic carousel machine, and he was a print shop. He had probably 4 automatics, veteran screen printers, with 3 people. He basically stopped screen printing.
Wow.
He just recently moved shops. He took one of his carousels with him. He's got a second heat press carousel coming on board, and he's exclusively, I suppose, Supacolor. The mathematics of what he's doing, I know them, and I probably can't share them, but it's great, and the speed that he can put stuff out in. He ordered a job off us the other day of something like 26,000 transfers. He got them in 3 days from New Zealand to Australia. He had pressed that out, I think, in 4 days.
Jeez.
It's really interesting because you guys have run screen shops, right? You walk into a screen shop, what do you see? Who's the busiest guy in the room?
Screen guy.
The guy with the most smoke coming out of his head is the production guy.
Yeah.
The production manager. And in a lot of cases, that's the guy that owns the shop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No time.
Center of the wheel.
Everything is so complex in there. They have to know everything. They have to know that the screens are going to be good. They have to, and especially when you start getting into multicolor work, right? If you're just printing one colors and that sort of thing, it's kind of easy, right? But like as soon as you start having to register jobs and then when you start printing some of Gavin's sort of like, 12 color sets, you've really got to be on, and you've got to have a team that's on and all that sort of thing. But coming back to that guy, the busiest guy in the room, when we started selling Supacolor, the way that we pitched it is that busiest guy in the room, this was something that they didn't have to know anything about. They could pull in some minimum wage labor, and half an hour later, that guy, he's pressing like a champ, as long as they got the right press machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it did is it augmented them, and it was something that was easy in their shop because nothing else is. And I know this. I mean, I was that guy for 25 years, right?
Yeah.
And and I can't tell you how many holidays I missed and how many Christmases I hated. Used to be a joke in our family about Christmas because like Christmas was when all the pressure came on and everybody wanted it for that date. That's the really interesting thing about this product, but also DTF in general and transfers in general. If you're making DTF, maybe that's not so easy, but maybe it is easy depending on the sort of person that it is. But ultimately, it's a lot easier than screen printing.
So what do you think is the right heat press setup for somebody? I mean, I have, the like the Hotronics, standalone singular ones. But what would you recommend to somebody who already is used to automatics? Because when we've been messing with Supacolor, which for us has been a very recent transition, we're always like, well, we could have run this on the auto at 500 units an hour. And now we have a guy like doing it on a clamshell, so what do I need to buy that isn't a clamshell, I
got a press downstairs for you. We can ship it out today.
Yeah. Like what are the ones that work so well?
There's not a straightforward answer to that. It depends on the shop. It depends on what you're decorating.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on, where you want to take your business. If I tell you a little bit about DecoPress, the thing that I'd want you to know is, number one, we're a great customer of Supacolor's. And number two, last year we did $1.2 million in just heat transfer revenue, like pressing the garments. Okay. And we have 4 dual fusions. We have a 4-station carousel press. We have an Insta label press. We have 6 Hotronics cap presses. I mean, like, you get one and then you get another and then you get another. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you've got an army of heat presses and people pressing. It's part of the discovery process. Mm-hmm. It's part of the journey. It's part of learning what's possible and having curiosity and not be afraid to try something new and fail. And once you catch that bug, it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
And we've we've been like really successful doing athleisure wear for a long time. Everything from leggings to sportswear and that sort of stuff, and soft shells in the winter and caps during the spring. So when you say, what's the press you need to get, I would say get something reliable, get something air operated that takes the pressure off your staff and doesn't give them press fatigue, and works really well with some of the heat transfer products that are out there. And there's so many good products out there right now to help decorate with heat transfers.
In the first instance, and Cole specific instance, right?
Yeah.
Cole, I'd go and buy a dual fusion, and I'd buy a whole lot of plates.
Totally.
Okay.
That are different sizes and all that sort of thing. And the dual fusion is one of the best presses because it's got a free arm. So you can start decorating bags, t-shirts, sleeves, long sleeves, all of that sort of stuff. It's a really good all-rounder, and they're a great press. We collectively own probably, 10 or 12 of them. If you're pressing t-shirts and if you're pressing things like hoodies and that sort of thing, like fronts and backs and all of that, the new carousel presses that are coming up, that guy at East West Machines, he bought in a really, really nice version of that. And it's got a single heat plate with 2 people on that. We pressed all of our show shirts. We actually took that to Long Beach. Did you guys go to Long Beach? Did you see
I saw that. That thing, it looks nice.
$260, $270 an hour with 2 people on it. We've got a couple of customers that are running them now. One guy we dropped it into in the UK. We left the show, took the press to his place, installed it, and the guy got on it straight away and he bashed out a job that would take him sort of like an hour. He finished it in about 20 minutes.
Jeez.
And that was only with one guy on it. And press speed is the true limitation at the moment of heat transfers. But it's now sort of starting to get a little bit better because people are bringing out these carousel. There's a few other products that are coming to market shortly, which is going to enable people to press awesomely well. And if somebody walks in with a hoodie job and they've got 200 hoodies and they want to sort of like an 8-color print on the back or a 10-color print on the back, that's a hard screen print job, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably printing that at 200 an hour on an automatic carousel. If you're lucky, a bit of stop-start, a few rejects because the glue's not sticking, because of the fleece and all that sort of carry-on. Man, if you've got one of these carousel hook presses and you can press at 200 an hour, it's a no-brainer.
You know what I'm thinking now? I'm thinking about it would be hard for screen printing to add robotics and automation. I think it would be a whole lot easier to add robotics and automation with heat transfers.
There's already arms and it's been there. Like Insta has a feeder on a label press, and they've had that for a few years, where it just slides the transfer down and drops it into place, and then you press it. And now there's robot arms with suction cups that are placing the transfer down, dropping it, and pressing it. We were at FESPA just a few weeks back.
Aeon made this machine.
Yeah.
And you load the shirt on, it places the transfer, it peels the transfer off, and then it post presses it.
And then comes out the other end it's like almost like a conveyor. It's like shaped like a conveyor dryer, but it's shorter. I mean, right now it's got a good price tag on it, but it's like anything. The technology is going to get more affordable as time goes on.
When Rum said before that, also that sort of the heat transfer thing is it's the thing of the moment, right? And all of these manufacturers had never, like the bigger manufacturers, had never really thought about heat transfers. And so when you went to a show, there was a guy standing there with a single fusion or a single press or a clamshell or whatever. Nobody thought fast. There's a lot of smart people at the moment working on how to make transfers fast. We know there's a couple of machines coming out on the market and they're just going to be awesome. And you'd stick it in your shop, it'd be really familiar for a screen printer.
Yeah.
And you stick a couple of people on there, you don't have to worry about anything except sort of like loading it in. And these things are fast. They're like 400, 450 an hour with a post press, or a pre-press. And at that speed, all of a sudden, right, like the highs and lows in your market when you're at the busy Christmas end or when you're in the middle of summer, it just helps you because that's the hard bit of running screenshots.
We know about the pain in the screen room,
Oh man,
with the reclaim and the mesh and all of that other stuff. I mean, if you could find the right balance of business and route it reallocate it towards heat transfers, it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's all about. Like, I mean, one of the biggest challenges we have on the daily is, recruiting the labor pool, getting people to do those hard jobs, that are not automated and clean and easy and no chemicals and all of this other stuff. That's, heat transfers, they take a lot of that pain away. Deco press, we were screen printing transfers. We could have easily gotten into screen printing garments, but it's just like, how much more of that pain do you want to go through, And I think that's what it really comes down to, is how do you just make life easier?
You're talking about the screen room and it being the most difficult part. Are you guys doing everything with laser exposure units and automated cleaners? I mean, how are you managing 220 screens in each building per day efficiently?
I don't think there's a machine that can keep up with us right now.
Cole, the answer to your question there is we're doing that a little bit badly, and we're working on it. Yeah, we haven't automated our screen room enough at the moment. We're looking at options around that.
So there's just a lot of elbow grease in your screen rooms right now?
A lot of elbow grease in our screen room. We got 10 people downstairs on a shift.
It's not from lack of effort.
And it's not from lack of effort.
We tried a lot of different things.
We bought machines and they didn't work out so well. We've been looking around for the next. We bought them in the pandemic and it was pretty much sight unseen because we needed to get faster at reclaiming screens. Mm-hmm. And the ones that we bought didn't last so long.
And the other challenge is when you're using purely water-based inks, you're really limited, because
if you're not quick, then you dehaze. Yeah. And that's one of the challenges of water-based, because like if you end up with a stack of screens on it and they dry in, then the next thing you know, you've got somebody who's dealing with a chemical that's not so nice.
Right.
And
or you're cutting out the mesh and you're remeshing.
Oh yeah, totally. You're redoing it and that sort of thing. So it's one of our bottlenecks at the moment, and it's something that we're working really hard on to sort of like make that as nice a place to work as the rest of the factory is.
It's very impressive that you've decided to be so committed to the screen printed white underbases. There's just nothing that you can shoot out of a print head at the moment that compares, in your opinion.
It's just not thick enough. And the other thing as well is, like, when you get to like say 1,000 A3 sheets, current DTF is slow.
The throughput's just not there.
The throughput's just not there. And we've been looking for the next generation of what's going on, but there's not a whole lot of people that are working on that at the moment. They're all sort of like quite taken up by where it's going on. The other thing is, like, if you go and run 20 DTF printers, every single one of those printers needs to be color calibrated, and that's difficult. And so you can't split the job up and put it on 4 printers because you're going to get 4 different colors. It's like anything. It's an emerging technology, and it's still got a long way to go before it's stable, by any stretch of the imagination. It's flexible, and for the short run stuff, like the 1 to sort of 20, the individual sheets, the prosumers and the crafters and all that sort of thing, it's the perfect product. Yeah.
And for low volume, low count.
Low count.
Don't get us wrong. Like, we get so excited about the technology because we're transfer people, right? And we want the transfer industry to blow up and continue to grow. And so when we see the technology, we're get really excited about it, because it means that the adoption rate of heat transfers is increasing. And that means that there's more of an opportunity for us to engage customers and to continue to grow, because, the bigger the pie, the better the slice. Going back to your, what you were pointing out about being committed to water-based inks and putting the underbase on, one of the things that really mattered to us was quality and consistency and stability, reliability. All of those things, as a decorator, were so important to us, because we knew that if we put it on, it needed to stay on, but it needed to look good, right? So that the customer was proud to wear it. And the thing that, I personally love about Supacolor as it compares to other products is just that, the shirt I'm wearing, I probably washed it like 30, 40 times, and I probably need a new one. But I do that because I want to make sure that, our transfers are constantly performing.
Hey, Rum, I think the first time I saw you in person was in Chicago at the Printavo event. You remember that event?
Yeah.
Man, I actually want to give you your flowers. When you went on stage, you killed it. How was that like for you when you was on stage? How was that presentation like?
It was kind of a blur. And I remember walking off and Brett saying, "There goes Transfer Jesus." And that was pretty funny. And that stood out to me the most. And the name kind of stuck. We're really passionate about what we do. And when you're passionate about what you do, right down to the core of who you are and you know what you stand for, it's pretty easy to get up in front of a group of people and tell them your why. And that's just what happened, and I think that like all the work that we put in and not just creating a transfer, but building a culture.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what that moment was all about.
It was awesome. One more thing here. So hopefully this doesn't turn the mood the different way. So I know you and I also know Stan, right?
Yeah.
And you guys had a public falling out for a little bit, right?
I think it was one-sided.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, yeah, just so that happened. Is there like opportunity to repair that? Or you guys like talking?
Oh, always. You know what? From our side, we've got a lot of love and respect for Stan.
Oh, totally.
So much. The narrative is not important to us. Sometimes things just don't work out. For us, it's we're going to always celebrate what was great and look at it that way. And I don't really want to, dive into, the details of it, but I can tell you this, that the door is always open. The lines, are available. We reached out several times, even after the fact, and always tried to make amends. But, we understand that like sometimes it takes time until, the other party is ready.
Yeah.
And that's it,
Yeah.
But from our end of it, it's like, Mike mentioned Stan earlier, like there's so much respect for that guy and, what he's done in the industry and also what we did together. But there's nothing but love, man.
Stan, listen to this.
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
Sounds intense.
Oh man,
Yeah.
no, it was. It's not.
I know you guys don't have too much time left, but I'd just like to get a quick rundown of where you see the industry and Supacolor over the next maybe 2 to 3 years, other than me selling all my screen printing equipment, apparently. What do you think is going to be? What do you think?
You're going to need that. We're not telling you to get rid of that.
What do you think is our near-term future?
That's a really interesting question because apparently it's my job to work out what's going to go down in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I didn't miss DTF, but like we were in a busy place, and we were working very much on the now of our business and that, and we probably missed how sort of like popular it was going to be and how ferocious the uptake was going to be. And now you go to a show and it's everywhere. We think that industry is going to mature. Obviously, there's some better manufacturers coming out. We're moving away from the Chinese-made machines a little bit. In some cases, it's going to get better. For me, one of the keys that we touched on before is like press speed is going to increase. You're going to be able to buy machines that are going to be able to print transfers a whole lot faster than a current sort of like clamshell or a dual fusion and that sort of thing. Screen printing is never going to die. It's always got its place. One of my machines is a 14-color Challenger, and we print a lot of simulated process. We love it, and if the quantity count is high enough, there's no better way to print a T-shirt.
Yep.
When we say it's a difficult process, it becomes a difficult process when the quantity counts come down.
Right.
It's not a cheap process when you're doing 10 units or 20 units or 30 units or that sort of thing. But also, screen printing with the flexibility that transfer gives you means that you can run a really, really good shop.
Mm.
You chuck in some embroidery in there. I'm actually an embroiderer. I'm an embroidery digitizer. And like, you can't forget about embroidery because it's like a staple of decoration.
Yep.
And there's a timeless quality about that. And the combination of all three, like you'll have a transfer on the side of the hat, the back of the hat, and an embroidery on the front. You mix it up depending on what the garment is, but ultimately consumers are getting more demanding. They want retail quality. The transfer world is going to get better. Rum's other company, Deco Press, makes a line of other heat pressables like patches and suede patches, leatherettes, and engraved stuff and sublimated patches and that sort of thing. They're so good at finishing a garment, and then all of a sudden you've elevated your garment from a one color screen print on the front to something that you pick up at a retail store. And I think the consumer's getting a lot more discerning around what they're getting. They care a little bit more. There was a time sort of like 10 years ago where you just chuck the shit in a box and you can roll it on out, and they were happy that it had their logo on the front.
At the end of the day, in terms of, from our perspective, how this moves forward, at least in the immediate future, it's going to be about speed. It's going to be like, how quickly can you press? How easy is it? How are you going to manage the throughput? How are you going to scale? Not just from our side, but our customers. They've got to scale as well in order for us to grow. What's really interesting about the mentality and the fit and scaling is last year we did a tour for one of the biggest musicians in all of North America. And it was north of 1 million heat transfers. And all the garments were printed using Supacolor.
Jeez.
And it was very specific what the artist wanted, that they wanted the artwork to keep its integrity, to not be changed in any way. And, screen printers, were shocked, especially our customers, because they tried to sell them screen printed graphics, which look great, by the way, but the artist just wanted it to look the way it looked on the screen. And we ended up printing that. And I think that was like one of the most remarkable stories that happened for us last year.
I would love to know how many lines and how many days that took.
A lot. We I'd overbought the screen printing lines, and so we had 3 of them sitting down the back in crates that we hadn't installed. So I went from being a zero and causing a whole lot of pressure and stress on everybody to a hero, because I actually had some shit in stock that we could go and use it to make it this stuff.
Yeah.
So you're never far away from a good decision.
Wow.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was about 3.5 months of work, but 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. And, because mind you, like, this is during the peak of our year during the summer when everybody's busy. So it wasn't like we didn't have anything else to do. We had a lot to do, and then we had a lot more.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. It's been great to hear from you guys. The company's growth has been phenomenal.
Crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate being on, and it was great chatting with you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much to everyone listening. Go grab some Supacolors and sell your presses. All right, bye.